there's lots of schools that have like bomb dishes. Like I've had curry and sushi and all sorts of crazy meals in schools that were actually better than what I had at the restaurant the night before.
My first mentor, he was really awesome to me, and like some other kids that worked like high school kids. I'm still in contact with him. Just
That's
like
so nice.
really taught me work ethic.
I think everyone should work in a restaurant at least once in their life.
Yeah.
Whether it's front of house or back of house, just to learn. I feel like it's at the end of the day, it's also like a people business. You know,
Yeah.
like I've been in service roles and worked in back of house, whatever. And it's just like, it's cool to be able to like be on the other side of humanity.
Welcome to the Indulge Podcast. I'm Marlon Gordon.
I'm Melissa Santel, and today we cannot wait to interview Chef Rob Reinsmith. Hey,
Welcome to the
welcome.
party. How you doing?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing great. Thanks for being here. So do you want to give us a little bit of a introduction to who you are?
Ooh, it's loaded, but yeah.
We like to dive in and get
Yeah,
deep really quick.
Yeah, so the reason why I'm here is obviously in the industry, chef owner of Wild Child in St. Pete. My husband, I have two young kids as well too, 9 and 7, Jackson and Dylan.
Okay, real quick. Sorry, I got to interrupt you. How do you spell Jackson? Because I have a Jackson too.
So we're traditional.
Okay.
Jackson.
Okay, I'm a Jaxon.
Ooh, edgy.
Ooh,
I like it.
love that.
I like it.
Okay.
Do you guys go by, does he like Jax or?
I call him Jax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Also
or,
adorable nickname.
Or Jackson Waxon. You ever see, what was that show on Key and Peele? The skit that they did with all the
Wait, I've
college
never
athletes.
seen that show.
Oh, yeah. You got to watch it. Key and Peele. It's
All right,
hilarious.
you're going to have to send it to me.
I will. But sorry, Jackson.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, chef owner of Wild Child in St. Pete. Working on a new project coming up soon.
Okay.
And that's the gist of it.
All right, and you spent some time in New York too, right?
Yep.
Okay, what was that like?
I mean, honestly, it was awesome. Like I lived in New York from 2005 to like 2013. And that was like what, they called the early aughts, and like a special time in New York is like obviously every single era, every decade is a special time in New York because it's New York. But that was like, it's like recession / post-recession, and like just the restaurant industry in general, and also like the arts and like music scene. Like indie music was super popular, and it's kind of like, for better or for worse, you want to call it like, the start of like the hipster chef restaurant like culture.
Yeah.
It went from like cool restaurants or really, fine dining and like button up and everything, and like Upper West Side. And this is like, all right, cool. Now, leases are cheaper in the Lower East Side. So it's like restaurants are opening up in like some of these outer neighborhoods that weren't as popular for, restaurants and bars, but just like the music scene and restaurants all coming together. It was a really cool time.
So was it a bit of a culture shock for you moving from the Tampa Bay area to go to New York after college or whatever you did?
Yeah, for sure. So I went to Le Cordon Bleu Culinary School in Orlando. And even that, it's like, culinary school, whether it's worth or not, is to be debatable. But at the same time, I had a friend living in New York, so it got me to New York, and that's what I wanted to be. Because like every young cook is like, I want to go to the greatest city in the world. Like there's the best restaurants. And when I got there, it was definitely like a huge culture shock. I didn't know. I visited New York twice before.
Bold move. You were like going right in there.
And it's like, it was wild. Like I loved it though. Like I embraced it. Like I love just even like riding the train. Like when I first moved there, I didn't know there was like, say you take like, I don't know, the 7 train. There's a north and southbound. Like I didn't know. So I'm just like, went home one night from work and I ended up, I'm like, man, this doesn't look right. Like, why am I outside? Like usually I get off the train or the subway and like go up the stairs.
You're like, I'm above ground.
Yeah. Like, why am I above ground right now? But it was cool. I love like the experience of learning all that. And it was a lot, but like I said, I embraced it. And it was the first year. A lot of people say this, like the first year, it's crazy because you're surrounded by 9+ million people, but you feel so isolated and lonely, even though I was like there with friends and working. But it was cool to kind of like struggle through that and just like explore and learn the city. And, I was a line cook in New York City making like $9 an hour. Like I had to get I got a second job just to like help so I can pay rent and afford everything.
Yeah.
But it was cool. You learn like the little neighborhoods and the go-to spots, and just like a lot of fun. It was cool.
They say that you're a real New Yorker when you know the subway system and you are confident exiting the subway. And for me, like I lived there for 2 years and we just missed each other, by the way.
Yeah.
I moved there pretty much right when you left. But it was also crazy learning the system and just like trying to figure it out. And I definitely can identify with the feeling lonely. I remember like as a 24-year-old walking out of my apartment on 14th and A, smoking a cigarette. Like it was winter time. I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm so alone. Like walking to the coolest coffee shop of all time. It was like the quintessential New York time.
Yeah. No, I love that. It was such a good time. Good.
So when you go to New York, do you still take the subway or no?
I actually was in New York a couple weeks ago, and it's funny because I forced my friends to take the subway. Like I was with my cousin Bianca, and she was like, like I would rather take an Uber, and I totally get that. But there are just some times where the subway is quicker, and you can't beat it. And I know that it smells and it's hot in the summertime and all the things, but it's just like it's so convenient and it's so cheap. I would rather pay $2.75. Also, now they have the swipe from your phone wallet. You don't even need to get a Metro card anymore. You just swipe your phone and then you walk right through. So it's so convenient.
So how much anxiety did you have going up to getting your Metro card out and swiping it with one shot? If there's people behind you and you're like, and it doesn't go through, then the more
pissed.
Nervous you get. Everyone's like looking at you and just like
They start yelling.
Yeah.
I know. If you swipe it the wrong way, like the strip's not the right way, or if the machine's being weird,
it's not
like
straightly aligned.
no. It is an embarrassing moment, but you work through it.
Yeah.
I've also almost gotten shut in the subway door multiple times.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
There's something like it sounds so weird saying this, but like so oddly nostalgic about like there's a very distinct smell of like the subway and then like also just like when the train's coming and it like creates this gust of wind.
Yes.
And it's actually refreshing, but it's like
I was gonna say, is it refreshing?
but it's not at the same time. So
Yeah.
it's like a really nostalgic feeling for that.
My favorite feeling is that gust of wind, and then you look down into the rail system and there's like 4 rats just running.
Yeah.
And I always get a kick out of it, but everyone else is like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Steer clear of the rats. But I saw one carting a whole piece of pizza once, and so after that, now they're just like a pure form of entertainment for me.
That's wild.
That's awesome.
So I was born in New York, but I moved when I was 4, right? But I still claim New York.
Where at?
And Queens, Jamaica, Queens.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So my first time back since I moved was when I was probably like 34, 35. And I was like, all right, I haven't been here in forever. Like, I need to get the whole New York experience as an adult, which included taking the subway. And my goodness, it is like a different world down there. Like, it took I was trying so hard not to ask for directions, but I just had to do it because I didn't know what the heck was going on down there. It was wild. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, and then when I go back, like I missed you by a week, 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. I just take Ubers. Like I don't deal with the subway.
Yeah. I mean, I only did it once. I did it once for the memories, and then the rest of the time I was like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But in my defense, I was also walking a lot of the time, which is just what you do in New York.
Yeah, which is so funny because my friend, especially my wife, walks. She's like a New Yorker. She's born in Brooklyn, grew up in like Tribeca, but then like high school years, she moved to like Westchester, which is hour outside the city, but then went to NYU directly after. So she was pretty much in New York City her entire life until like the age of like 30. But she walks so fast, and so do I. And like it's a real thing. Like people that are with me, like, are you okay? Like in a hurry? I'm like, no, this is how I walk. Like I don't know. Like, you just get into that like zone of the momentum, man. That's becomes a part of you. So
do you ever wish you could raise your kids in New York?
No.
No?
It's funny because my in-laws, they actually just moved up to in the Hudson Valley, but they were in Westchester up until like a year ago, and they would always just like kind of like jokingly half like pressuring like, would you ever like move back to New York? Like what would it take you? Like what if we give you money to open a restaurant? I was like, it would take so much money to raise kids in New York. And it's like sometimes it's like kind of sad. Like I'd be walking to work and there's like a playground that's just like a park that's the size of this room. It's just like all cement. And it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't want that for my kids.
Yeah.
So I feel like you'd have to have a lot of money to be able to do it right. Like private
sure.
schools, and I don't know, like having an apartment where you can park your car in a garage, that's
Yeah.
just parking would be $25,000 a year. Like, it's
That's crazy.
Listen, I would be happy if I had an apartment in New York with a dishwasher, let
yeah,
alone
yeah.
let alone a parking spot. But
Yeah.
and I think it also goes to like how you grew up as well. Like I was born Long Island and then was raised in upstate New York. So it's like, we had a gigantic lawn and a trampoline and a pool. And it's like, those are definitely things that I want to give my kid or hope to give my kids someday. And I mean, listen, raising kids in the city, I can't even imagine how rough it is, like carting around like a baby carriage up and down the subway steps. I watch people do it.
I've helped out. Like, it's funny because like I was in my 20s, so thinking of having kids was not even on my brain. But I learned this from seeing other people do it. But you'd always help out like a mom with a baby carriage because you're not taking your kid out, holding him, bringing the car down. It's like someone would have to help you. If they'd grab the front of the stroller, you're the back of the stroller, and you go down the steps, and then you go onto the subway. And it's like, I couldn't imagine. And then your apartment is a 5th floor walk up just to go to the store or a play day is a lot. So.
So when you were in New York, were you in Brooklyn or Lower East Side you mentioned?
No, so when I first moved to New York, I lived in Chelsea, which was hilarious. And we never should have had that apartment. Like, as a friend of mine, his parents kind of had some money, so they like kind of supplied, got the apartment. And I just paid some rent, but it was like me and my friend shared a living room. So it was a 2-bedroom apartment, 4 guys living in it. I shared a living room. That was for a year. And then
I would hate that.
I thought my 2-wing bedroom was
that's
bad.
how it is, though. Like, New York makes you live in the most insane circumstances and living conditions you would never agree to do on. But when you're there, it's like you're not home. You're only really there to like sleep, shower, and go. Like, that's it. But then I lived in Astoria, Queens for like 3 years as well too, which I loved because it was cool. It was like in the city still, but definitely like a little more neighborhoody. Really cool. A lot of like amazing Greek restaurants and also like Middle Eastern. There's like Egyptian restaurants. So like Steinway Street in Queens has supposedly like the most different languages spoken like in any street in the entire world. So there's like all these cool like different cultures and all this amazing food. That was a really cool place to live. And then when I met my wife, she lived in the Lower East Side, like right next to the Williamsburg Bridge. So that's when that's when I knew I made it. I was like, in New York, relationships like catapult. It's like, because you live so far away in different boroughs, so it's like you meet each other and like we hit it off like really, really great. And it was like a really instant connection, like inseparable. So it was like, I remember I didn't go home for like 6 weeks. I would just go to like Uniqlo, like on 5th Avenue, and just buy like new like plain T-shirts or whatever and socks. So like instead of doing laundry, I was like, oh, whatever. And then finally she's like, do you want to just like move in? And I was like, yes.
Yes. You're like, I thought you would never ask.
And obviously I would. I lived with her too, but it was also cool. It's like, all right, cool. Now I live in the Lower East Side, so it was great. It worked out.
So how did you convince your wife to come to Florida, or did she convince you to come to Florida?
So it's kind of a funny story. Like we're actually going to move to, when I say this, the plan wasn't really that great, but so this is 13 years ago, maybe we just first started doing this, but went to Tulum, Mexico for a wedding, went back another time. We're like, we could do this. Like, let's move to Tulum. It'd be cool. Now Tulum is like insane. It's like, they call it like the 6th borough. It's like, it's like the Brooklyn of Mexico. And it was like on the cusp of that. But we had this really great idea, like we're going to do that. So we just like made this plan, started saving some money, kind of had like an exit strategy, but nothing set in stone. And then I reconnected with some guys I used to work with back when I lived in Florida when I was much younger. And they're like, hey, if I met up with them, I kind of like hung out. I'm like, listen, we have this project going on. If you're ever interested in like moving back, like let us know, we can talk. So I was like, all right, cool. I thought about it. I was like, yeah, we're going to visit Florida anyway, see my parents, and I might as well meet up with them. And so we met up a couple times in New York and in Florida. And I was like, the more and more I thought about it, I was like, all right, this seems more practical than moving to Mexico for like a 6-month visa, figuring it out, which could have been fun and cool, but this just made more sense. And I remember we were at the Dunedin Causeway, like me and my wife, in like the back of an old truck that I had, and we were just like hanging up on the water. And I was like, do you want to just move here instead? And she was like, didn't even hesitate. She was just like, okay.
Aw.
And like, that was it. So we made like the plans and just made it happen, you know. Unfortunately, I put my notice in at the place I was at in New York and moved back down here. We moved down, and at the same time, it was like moved down, got married, went like in a month long. So the money we saved for moving to Mexico, we ended up using for like a month long honeymoon traveling through like Central America and
that's
Mexico.
awesome.
Yeah, that's
it was-
amazing.
So we eloped. We got married in Charleston, hung out there for a week.
My sister got married in Charleston. It's so beautiful there.
Oh, I love it there. But yeah, so long story short, that's what happened. We moved back to Florida, and at first it didn't take a lot of convincing, just because when you're from New York, you want something different, and like, and she loved how like I had a lot of friends here, like my family's here, so she was into it. But her first year here, she had her driver's license at 31 years old, which is
I have friends that still don't have driver's
Yeah.
licenses
That's
because
so
they
wild
live in
that
New
it
York.
just didn't need
Yeah.
It's
to.
wild.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
She tried it once in high school, and it's like didn't like driving, so she's like, nope, not for me. I don't need it.
Can you imagine learning how to drive in New York City? I would be like,
No.
I would also hate driving.
No.
It's crazy.
Yeah, like nope. this
No.
Subway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
So when you were in New York, did you drive or no?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I didn't either.
If you live
just
like
don't.
in like some of the outer boroughs, you can do it, but just the hassle of parking, because you have to move your car across the street way too much hassle.
And
Unless
not
you
only
have money.
that, it's so expensive to have your car in a parking garage. Like, I don't think when I lived there, I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
like waiting lists on parking garages, so
That's
it's
crazy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it's a really difficult place to live, but at the same time, like,
so convenient.
It's
Yeah.
so magical,
Yeah.
though.
yeah,
It's
but
so
like
magical.
thinking about kids, like I think it'd be awesome to raise my kids there because it's so difficult to teach them to be gritty and to work hard. I feel like people in New York, most of the time, have a different work ethic than a lot of other places.
I was gonna say that any
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
like kids or adults that you meet that grew up in New York City, there's like a way different. There's something different about them that's like
it's a hustle.
Yeah.
super sharp,
Yeah.
super smart. Like obviously the culture and everything too, but anyone that you meet that like grows up like in New York City, like there's something, they have like an edge above.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone else.
it's like a mentality shift. I think because
Yeah.
you have to be constantly aware too when you're in New York. Like there's
Yeah.
shit coming at you from every angle, whether
Yeah,
it's a
for
city
sure.
bike or whatever. Like
Yeah.
you just are always just hyper
Yeah,
vigilant. You
and you're
know,
like ahead of the curve too, so like not that I'm into fashion or art, but like you're in that world before anyone else is. Like everything hits that place first, and then slowly trickles down. So you're like kind of like years above,
yeah, you're
ahead
like
of everyone else.
Yeah.
Your fingers
Music
on the
and
pulse.
art and yeah.
it's funny.
Yeah.
I had some cousins that grew up in Los Angeles, and like in high school, they were always telling me like the next song that was gonna hit or the next fashion that was gonna be popular. It was crazy. Like they knew everything before we did here in Florida. And it's blew my
Yeah.
mind. And New York's the same way, I'm guessing.
do we feel like it's still that way, New York, Florida?
Yes.
Definitely.
I just had to ask.
Even though
Definitely.
there's so many, there's a lot of people like us that like from here moved to New York, and then eventually you kind of like, for whatever reason, when I first moved to New York, I instantly thought I was a New Yorker. I was like, Florida sucks. Like it's like they're dumb. Like I lived there for like a year and a half. Like that's laughable. You
Yeah.
know. But I feel like people like that moved to New York and came back, like for whatever reason, like there's something sparked. Like, oh, it's not that bad down there. It is nice and it is cool, and you can bring what you learned and present it and apply it to down here. And I think that's why St. Pete, especially, and Tampa, like there's like this huge resurgence, and it's like amazing now, and things are growing so fast because people that did move out to these bigger cities, whether it's like New York, LA, like anywhere, came back and took what they learned and did their thing back where they're from. And also people like now don't have to leave to go to a big city. It's like, oh, cool, I can actually learn from a chef or like a restaurant or like in a media company, because you don't have to go to these bigger cities, because there is cool things here now too. So people are staying here, coming back, and there's like a lot of movement because of that.
Yeah, I feel like we've gotten to a point where we're attracting talent from other cities too.
Yeah.
And it's just like post-COVID really shook the world up, obviously. But
Yeah.
for us, it helped us a lot. And from culinary perspective, like coming back, I think to your point, there's a lot of people that were like, wow, actually, there's something really special down south here in Tampa and in St. Pete. And it gave us an opportunity to get some new people.
Yeah, for sure.
That was cool.
Yeah, so I moved away. We were talking off camera, and I told you I moved away, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago now. And it was right before COVID, and I came back like in the middle of COVID. But my time away from here, like when I got back, St. Pete and Tampa were like two completely different places. Like,
Yeah, me too.
It was blown away whenever I came back. That's because of people like you doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
So talk to us about Wild Child. How did Wild Child start? Is it your brainchild? Like,
Where'd the
how did
name
the
come
idea
from?
come up with?
So, so me and my business partner, Matt Kay, he owns a bar called The Benz in St. Pete, which everybody knows The Benz. The Benz is like iconic, you know. And
Have
I
you
knew
been
The
to The
Benz.
Benz?
Not yet, but I'm going to go.
Yeah. And I knew The Benz
Yeah.
before I even met Matt. But at the time, I was working at Noble Crust, and just like anyone else in any industry, and like also especially in this industry, it's like as a chef, eventually you want to do your own thing. Like it's cool to work for good people, and I had that really great opportunity with that restaurant group. But there's just something inside you that you're like, I need to do my own thing, be my own person, my own boss. And a mutual friend introduced me to Matt because he wanted to do something else too, like the Ben's super successful, but he's like, it's a really cool, like, to me, it's like one of the very first like bars in like St. Pete. I don't know about Tampa, but that was like, you could be in Williamsburg, you could be like in any cool neighborhood, like in a cool city in the U.S. And it's like, it brought a lot of traction to it. But he wanted to do something like, more mature, like, or food based. So a friend introduced us, and we kind of hit it off. We had like the same vision for things, which is funny because there wasn't like a really specific like restaurant we wanted to do. I was like, but we knew we wanted to do something together and like make it cool. So we looked at some spaces, and there was a couple of misses. Like we were like working on a space on Central that didn't go through, and then we kind of just like, let's take a break from each other and like do our own things and see what happens. And then the space for Wild Child came up, and the broker actually, he's, they're salesmen. So but at the same time, he had the genius of like, knew that me and Matt were talking. So he like decided to kind of like bring us both back into the picture to like make the deal happen. We checked out the space. It used to be called New Mex. And really it was like a turnkey. It was like, you can't even get deals like this anywhere, I don't think, like post-COVID. It was like already built out as a restaurant. Really, if you wanted to, you could have just, obviously you paid money. There's like a key fee and everything. But you could just went in there and just like opened up a week later. Obviously, you don't want to do that. You want to make it your own, do like, change the design, some decor stuff. But we're like, you know what? Let's just go for it. Let's do it. And like really as we were talking, like all we really wanted was just like kind of like a restaurant, but also as like a party restaurant. Like in like not the sense where it's like it turns into a nightclub at night, but where it's just like bustling and there's like, like this loud, like energetic vibe going on. Kind of like I know we were talking before at the Epicurean, just like Roberta's in Bushwick is like that. It's like a very like chef-driven restaurant. The food's amazing, but at the same time, it was like, let's party. Let's get it wild, And it created this really cool vibe. You definitely attract like a certain clientele, but also, anybody can go there, any age group, but it's like definitely fun and loud and boisterous. And that's what we wanted the most. And we're like, we're in Florida, so we want to have like this tropical kind of like edge to it. You want like really juice forward cocktails. The food's going to be like loud and like bright and salty and like lots of herbs, just like a lot of acid. So that was like kind of the goal. We signed the lease, negotiated for a while, finally signed the lease. I put my notice in at Noble Crust, and that was like March 1st of 2020. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, oh yeah, now there's this crazy thing called COVID, which we all kind of like heard about. And we're like, yeah, that sounds wild.
Yeah. And we're like, we're in Florida. Can't touch us.
And then it's like, I remember getting like the text. Because do you remember like right before COVID, everybody had a friend whose mom's friend's son is in like the Air Force, the Coast Guard, and they heard there's going to be a lockdown. Remember like that rumor getting around?
Yes.
I'm like, that's like some crazy thing. Then literally it was like a week later, they're like, all right, lockdown. for
Yeah.
done.
My mom was the community health director for Hillsborough County, so she had all the tea, and
Okay,
I knew
so you
I
knew.
knew it was coming. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess we all kind of did, but it just sounded so crazy because, like, in
Right.
our lifetime,
Who would
we've
think?
never heard of anything like that. But yeah, it was a wild time to like sign a lease and quit my job, and right in the beginning of COVID. But
Same thing
I'm
happened to
sorry.
me.
yeah,
Yeah, I think COVID was just the bane of everyone's existence. But to our point before, it did some cool things
Yeah,
for us
yeah.
too. I mean, it was very like my parents and I opened a restaurant literally probably within that same month that you just dropped. And we were lucky though, because it was pizza. So it was,
that's perfect.
everybody's coming, they're picking it up, they're leaving, or we're delivering it, without contact and
Yeah.
doing all the things. So thankfully, they were still, after so many times of permitting visits and all the things, it was
Yeah.
just, it was aggressive, like even trying to get anybody out there
Yeah.
to execute any of those things at that time.
Yes.
But man, it was a wild ride. So
Yeah.
I can identify
Yeah.
fully.
And I'm not like, and I don't play like the COVID victim. I don't even like even bringing it up. It's just
Yeah,
like in
me
this
neither.
timeline, it was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you know what? There, it's gonna happen. But we're lucky in the sense that me personally, like I already knew I was gonna leave my job and probably have 4 months of not getting paid. So I was already planning on not getting paid for like 4 or 5 months. Like, you know what I mean? So that wasn't like a huge hit. We were opening a new restaurant. Even though it was ready to go, we still had some design work. We negotiated some time without paying rent. So we already had 3 to 4 months to kind of do that anyway. So it,
Yeah.
in a weird sense, it really worked out. And we have a ton of outside seating, which in the summer, it's not so great for us. Like, even though we're still busy, it's like, we're at 80% outside seating. We have fans in the patio, but it does get, it's Florida. It
Yeah.
gets, that's part of the vibe at Wild Child. Like it's loud, it's going to be hot, and you have fans from Home Depot blowing on you. Like that's just kind of like what it is. But we're lucky when we first opened that. They're like, all right, no one sit inside 6 feet apart. We're like, cool, that's all we have.
Done and done.
And we just, we kind of went back and forth. We're like, do we change the concept? Is it more like grab and go now? Is it like this? We're like trying to like, everyone was using the word pivot
Yeah.
in 2020 or 21.
Pivot.
And then finally we're like, you know what? This isn't going to be forever. Let's just stick to the original plan. Let's have this awesome restaurant because we just want to be like a really cool neighborhood restaurant. And that's what we did and went for. And luckily, people, liked it and stayed and would come in and like, we're still busy since then. So it worked out good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what made you want to get into culinary?
So I started working in a restaurant when I was like 15 or 6. It was sophomore year. A friend in school was like, hey, I have a job. I was like, whoa, that sounds crazy. Like it didn't even matter what it was, He was like, it's in this restaurant. We need like someone to like wash dishes. And I was like, all right, cool. Because at the time I was like, I was like into skateboarding and I was like in bands and stuff. And we didn't grow up like poor. It was like my mom was a school teacher and my dad was into pest control. I was like, but at the same time, there was not like a lot of money for like all these extra things. And those skateboarding is actually kind of like an expensive sport because you're constantly like breaking things. You like need new shoes, and guitars and amps are expensive. And it's like my parents got me a guitar, but I was like, if I'm in a band, I can't have a little practice amp. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll get a job. And started off as a dishwasher. I remember my first paycheck was like $105. I went to a pawn shop, bought like this big amp, which is ridiculous. You can even buy an amp for $100. And at that moment, I was like, oh, this is where it's at. I'm like, it's gonna work. I didn't love school. I wasn't like didn't really do any sports in high school either. So I was like, nothing else going on. So I'm just gonna roll with this. And eventually I was like other people's, like you start on Dish. And then my next station was, it was like a Southern restaurant in Palm Harbor. And
What was it called?
It's called Magnolia Grill.
Okay.
And the guy that owned that, Jamie Kanos, my first mentor, he was really awesome to me and like some other kids that worked there, like high school kids. I'm still in contact with him. Just
That's
like
so nice.
really taught me work ethic, like in a cool way. Like, and his dad actually worked there too. And they were kind of hard asses, but I like that. Like
Yeah.
I respond good to that. I didn't get like mad and like sad. It like actually pushed me to be like, okay, well, I don't want to get yelled at again. You know what I mean? So
Did that prepare you for New York?
oh, 100%. Like
Yeah.
that, honestly, like, and I talk to that guy, Jamie, quite frequently, like once or twice a year. And I always remind him, like, just so you know, like, you definitely like shaped like me and another guy I know that worked there too. Like, you definitely shaped us for like our work ethic, you know, and it's things that I hold on to like now. You know, it's like, it's a
cool.
really cool lesson. Yeah.
Yeah,
So he was a really good inspiration for me.
that's cool. So you went from dishwasher to doing what?
Frying chicken. So it was like a pressure fryer, and that was like the job is like I just like fry chicken and just like clean the fryer out. It was cool, and then like it moved on to like the flat top and like fryer and everything. But you know, it was very basic, simple food, but I learned like organization, and like the most important thing is like the work ethic and like in caring. So
Yeah.
it was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think everyone should work in a restaurant at least once in their life.
Yeah.
Whether it's front of house or back of house, just to learn. I feel like it's at the end of the day, it's also like a people business. You know,
Yeah.
like I've been in service roles and worked in back of house, whatever. And it's just like, it's cool to be able to like be on the other side of humanity.
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
And it definitely is very humbling when you are physically serving someone food.
Yeah,
It's-
absolutely.
And it's, I don't know, it's cool.
Yeah. So how did you two meet?
So we meet at Epicurean, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I remember before that. Obviously, I know who Bryce is, but I'm
Yeah.
not like type. Like I've met him like at the restaurant and maybe a couple other places. But I remember it was like I don't know what day it was, like a random day, and I took off. And in the restaurant industry, like you know, like VIP comes in, or like especially industry, it's like you hook them up, and it's not like it's just like a
Take care of your people.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like about like, hey, we see you, you're here, like we're gonna make this like the best possible experience. We want you to experience everything. And like people like my CDC, my chef de cuisine, sous chef, one of them texted me like, Bryce from Rook is here. I was like, fuck, of course I'm not there. Like, I was like, dude, hook it up. I'm like, they're like, we didn't know until like afterwards, and it's like, oh my god. But then they text me that you guys like went up to like CM and like had a great time, and I was like, dude, I wish I could have been there.
Always
for
a
that.
great time there. And we had a great time at the restaurant too. It was Bryce's grandma's 89th birthday.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we were just maybe like 10, 15 minutes late, and she had already downed a frozen cocktail. And I was like, I just love you. Like, you could drink
And
me
she
under the
picked the
table.
restaurant too, right?
She did. She like, it was, you know, she has like a list of restaurants, like, and this is like in true Bryce family fashion, where she wants to go to. And Wild Child was at the top of the list.
That's
Made the
hilarious.
reservation. She loved it. We all had a great time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No,
Sounds
thank
great.
you. Yeah, it's great. And then I think we finally met at the Epicurean. We were
Yeah.
judging.
At the Epic Chef event.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was fun.
It was cool. I honestly don't like to like. It's weird for me to like be like a judge. Because I've done it before at another event where it's like your peers, is like other chefs, which is it is all in fun. But I feel kind of like bad almost because I know what it's like to be like on that side, and it's so hard. But it's so easy to judge. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's so easy to be like, oh, that needs more of this. That, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but it was cool. So I'm glad. And I love that the entire brand and that whole organization, what they stand for and everything they're doing is really cool. I've been a part of that competition, whether it's like some of my cooks from Wild Child or previous restaurants. I did one last year. It's just, it's a lot of fun. So I fully support it.
It was great. Yeah. Feeding Tampa Bay is a great organization.
Yeah.
They have several events throughout the year, but I would say like this is the one that they do every year. I think they were in their 10th year, right?
Yeah. Something
And
crazy like that.
I actually toured their new facility following our event, and they just moved in about 3 months ago, and it is immaculate. It
Yeah.
is gigantic. They had like walk-in coolers and freezers that were like the size of one of my apartments that I've had. I was like, oh my God, this is wild.
Yeah.
But I didn't know to the extent everything that they do as far as like service wise, what they provide. They had, they call it like a neighborhood shopping center. That's a market that you can just sign up. You have to make a reservation to shop. it's free, and you can go and you can get like a certain item from each cooler or whatever. And so it
Yeah,
was just
it's
like
cool.
that was great. And they have a whole dining facility where you can come have a meal, and they even had like a medical facility on site, which
Really?
yeah, I was like, wow, blown away. I had no idea that they
That is
had
cool.
such an impact, such a
Yeah.
big reach in that way.
Yeah, it's cool because they do a lot of that stuff for like the community to come in, and they also will take people, like sponsor people that whether they had like a troubled past or like single mom struggling, and give them like the tools. Like they basically have like a school there where they'll teach them skills in culinary or like even front of the house in restaurants, supply or provide like homing, like in shelter for them. And then also once they're done with like the schooling, like help with like job placement. So it's not just like this thing where it's like, oh, if you need, here's some money to like help you. They actually give you like people the tools to do all these things. And there's a lot of it's like volunteer based as well too. Like they
That's
do,
cool.
you can do it. They do like I've always wanted to do this, like a family night where you can go in like with your kids and you help like pack like whatever family egg. It's this much, some canned foods, like whatever, but like everyone kind of like participates and helps out. So it's a really cool sense of community. It's awesome.
I've
Yeah.
done. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and they also have their own team of chefs where they're constantly doing recipe development and they are packing everything. Even they were they dropped a stat, which maybe we can add it in the show notes. I want to follow up and not say the wrong thing, but they're getting so much produce at sometimes where they are basically having to freeze it all and pack it up. And she said something like there's 10,000, like they have the ability to like, I don't know, to freeze 10,000 packs of like bananas or strawberries or whatever a day.
That
A
is
day.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's
It's,
crazy.
nuts.
it's an amazing facility.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Truly.
Yeah, we've done some work with a organization called Blessings in a Backpack, which sounds kind of similar, but they're more or less packing backpacks for kids to have something to eat when they're not in school.
Yeah, like
and
on the
the-
summer.
Yeah,
program.
and the amount of bags they're packing, it is crazy. So crazy.
Yeah, well, that's, I think, like with Feeding Tampa Bay too, is their thing is that their targeted, say audience, but it's right above the poverty line because there's like a weird juxtaposition where it's like, if you're in the poverty, you're getting grants and things from like the government, like to help you assist and like live and eat. And then if you're obviously making way more than that, you don't get anything. But if you're like right there, they're like, nope, sorry.
Yeah.
You seem to be making enough. And you're just like, okay, imagine if both parents are working really hard and you have 3 kids and it's like, I don't know, there's like a lot more things into it. They don't get as much support. So I think that's what they're really going after is like, yeah, there's perfectly, there's families that like seemingly are doing well, but it's like they can't actually afford like their kids to have lunch during the summer or like summer care. Like I'm sure as like summer camps and like childcare in the summer. Dude, I didn't have anything like this when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to sailing camp or rock climbing camp.
Yeah,
Like,
me neither.
and obviously,
Nope.
like those
Yeah.
aren't like the only things. There's other, like the why, but those things fill up too. And there's like, there's a big expense. So
Yeah, there is like that weird like gap of like income. Because I've heard stories
Yeah.
of like friends trying to get insurance, right? And like if you went with the government insurance and you made under $30,000, it was free. But like once you hit like 31K, like you had to pay all this money just to get insurance, and it
Yeah.
was like
and you're paying the
unattainable.
same as a family
Yeah.
that's making
Yeah.
150.
Yeah, it's
total,
wild.
Like, yeah.
So you've been on TV before, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of food
Let's
competition.
talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yep. So I did Beat Bobby Flay, which was filmed in March 2023. So it was like almost a year and a half that I was like sitting on it. Obviously, I told people that I know and like that I went on it, and I won. But it was such a crazy experience, and I had like anxiety about like what was the outcome of it, just because I was like I was kind of telling you guys off the camera, like as soon as there's cameras, I like freeze up. So you're in this green room and there's like all these questions they're asking you, and I'm like, how do I say words again?
Yeah.
But like once you're in the kitchen, like cooking, you're like, all right, this I know a stove, I know a burner and an oven, and it was really cool. But I was like terrified of how cheesy it was gonna be. But when I finally watched the show, I was like, all right, there's the editors,
Movie
the
magic is
producers
real.
Yeah, they know
what
what
they're
they're
doing. So I'm like, all right, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
So what did you make?
So basically, Beat Bobby Flay is on like season 36. So however many episodes are in a season, I have no idea, but it's like hundreds and hundreds of episodes. So anything you can imagine has been done.
Yeah.
So like any idea I told them, so backtracking, they reached out to me about doing the show, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'm interested. Did the interview process, and they're like, all right, cool. It's like, what would your signature dish be? And I would tell them things. They're like, no, we've done that.
No.
We've done that. And I'm like,
Not good.
okay.
Yeah, pick something
Yeah.
else.
Sorry.
And then the producer's like, tell you what, I can make a little insider baseball. I can send you a list of things that the producers want to see and haven't seen. And you can pick a couple things, submit a recipe with a picture, and we'll choose one. I was like, all right, cool. So sending this gigantic list. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I picked, there's corn empanadas, which is like very random. But I was like, okay, that's kind of like in my wheelhouse. I can figure that out. And the other one was, I think like jambalaya, but I was like, all right, I'll make it like Wild Child, where it's like jerk chicken jambalaya.
Oh,
and like,
man,
Yeah.
you're speaking my language.
yeah. I wanted to add like these cool like flavors. So, like what because there were like a lot of bright, spicy flavors. And submitted both recipes. They're like, all right, cool, let's do the corn empanadas. And I was like, all right. I was like, well, I kind of just made that recipe up just for like a photo and like send something. I was like, no, I guess I should actually start working on this. It wasn't like really a signature dish of mine. And so I started messing around like 2 weeks before the show and just did a couple like mock, trials, because I knew it was 45 minutes. So I just like set up the kitchen on a day we're closed, have all my stuff out, and just like time myself and just like really perfect like the recipe and get it down. And I was like, all right, cool, I have it, give it a shot. And so then you get flown out to New York, and it was in Long Island City in Queens, which is like right outside Astoria. So I was like, all right, cool, I know this neighborhood, like gonna have fun. I went out the night before, went to Empayón and Alex Dupac's restaurant. Had a couple of mezcal margaritas and some tacos, and like I was like, oh, this is awesome. Went back to the room, watched like some Beat Bobby Flay like in my hotel, and they're like, all right, you're gonna meet your competitor at 6:30 in the lobby, and they're gonna pick you up. And I go down there, and the other guy's already there. He's probably there like 15 minutes early. This like, 6'1", really good looking, like jacked Latino guy, Manny. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's gonna destroy me.
No.
And like we're in the van, we start talking. I was like, yeah, did you go out last night and check any restaurants? She's like, no, I just stayed in my room and read the Flavor Bible and watched cooking shows. I was like, oh my God, I'm screwed. And but we hit it off really good. And like I knew some of the places he worked at, like at Uchi in Austin, really cool guy. And anyway, so you go in there, and it's like the first part of the competition is you have a mystery ingredient, and you go up against this random competitor. So our ingredient was mahi mahi, which is like most people, anyone would be like, that's amazing, because it's like such a neutral ingredient. You can do anything with it. It's not like, oh, it's chunky peanut butter, and you're like, what do I do with that? It's like a really versatile, good ingredient, but still, like I froze. But I was just like, I just started grabbing stuff, and I was like, all right. I saw tortillas, blue corn tortillas. Like, all right, I can make a fish taco. Like that's easy. And so I went with that, and I added like our own spin to it, and we did like I did like a fish sauce nak cham, a fish sauce mango nak cham, coconut crema, some peanuts. So I added like some like Southeast Asian flavors to it, just to give it like some brightness, make it a little like like the wow factor or whatever.
I love the air quotes.
And as I'm making it, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just like so random. But like then when it finally came out, I was like, oh, that looks pretty good, and it won and it worked. So I moved on to the next round, which was against Bobby Flay, and you basically have to stand like 6 inches from each other's face from Bobby Flay for like a minute. You just stare at each other, and I'm like looking at him like this, like I'm looking into his eyes. He's like looking off, like, all right, this is like the third one I've done this week already. Like this just worked for him. And then and then you finally, when they're like, all right, go, and you tell them your, what your signature dish is, and I was like, it's corn empanadas. And they make it like so dramatic, and he's just like, well, that's awfully specific. And then that was it. And like you go and you get all your stuff and just start going after it. It was cool.
That sounds really neat.
That
Yeah.
is awesome. And how was Bobby? What was he like?
It's funny. Everyone asked me that, and like, he was cool, but also not like overly talkative. He wasn't like, it was not like back behind like the scenes, just coming back there like, hey, how you guys doing? It was cool. It was like very just like business form, which at the same time, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
it's-
working.
It's a job. This guy's
Yeah.
been doing this forever. But he was nice. Like he was like, he was cool. Because I remember standing there beforehand, and when I say this, like I meant it. Like in high school, I used to watch Grillin' and Chillin', like, and he was like, I looked up to this guy.
Yeah.
Because I got into this industry, like I was at Magnolia Grill, 15 or 16. I was like, I love this cooking stuff. And like, I would watch the Food Network. And like back then it was like Malto Mario, Emerald, and Bobby Flay, Grill and Chillin'. Those are the three main shows. And then like Yan Can Cook. And I was like, I really looked up to him, and I thought he was like this super cool guy. He's like out there, grilling skirt steaks and making like mojitos in the backyard. And I was like, dude, this is what I want to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And I told him that, like, not in those words, but pretty much. And he's just like, and he also had the restaurant Gatto, which opened up recently, like in the last, I don't even know, at least 10 years in New York. So he's still like relevant. I was like, yeah, I went to Gatto. It was amazing. I loved it. And he's just like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I was like,
You're like,
all right.
tight,
bro.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like our entire interaction.
Yeah. That's funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
But it was cool.
You
Yeah.
got to
He
meet him,
was,
yeah.
like I said, he was nice. He was, respectful, but not like
Yeah.
overly
It's
like,
business.
yeah.
Yeah. I would have been asking him about his cats.
Yeah. Right.
I was so sad when Nacho, R.I.P. we
Oh,
love
I
him.
had no idea.
Yeah, yeah. He has the other, I think her name's Stella, and then he has Maine Coons. Like his thing is Maine Coons,
Yeah.
and then he got another new baby who's
Nice.
also a Maine Coon.
Those are the big cats, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's so funny because he'll, now that I've said it, you'll notice it. He'll post it with his cats.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
always on the counter. He'll be doing like a cooking video, and one will hop up, and he's like, "Stella," and just like pushes her. And then he's like, "You know what? It's fine." Like, but
I'm definitely
yeah.
a dog guy, but if I had to get a cat, it would have to be a Maine Coon.
They're
Yeah.
so pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're supposedly they have a really cool demeanor. Like they are kind of like a dog. I mean, they're huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a cat gal, so
How many cats do you have?
2.
Two?
Bryce has 1 and I have 1.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
But-
Do you have any pets?
Yeah.
I do. So I have. It's a funny topic. I have a cat and a dog. The cat is like the most like the only sane person in our entire family.
Really?
Like, yeah, the cat's doing great. The cat's thriving more than me and my wife. The kids, cats. Pepper's great.
Pepper.
and then we have a dog who's been like kind of like that. I love her, but like a handful.
What kind of dog is it?
So she's American Stafford Terrier, like basically a pit mix.
Yeah.
Like really sweet, but like so energetic and so just off the wall that it's a lot. So we're dealing with a lot right now. We're going through it. And it's funny because they play like super rough, and it's kind of scary. Like when you watch it, I'm like, oh my god, the dog's gonna eat the cat. But like the cat for some reason likes it and can just do like one hiss and a swat, and she'll like run away.
Yeah.
Cat can hang.
Yeah, the cat can
The
hang,
cats are tough.
for sure.
Yeah.
They are.
Unless
remember-
you're my cat, and then not so much.
Yeah. Well, I asked the vet about that. He's like, trust me, you'll know if the cat's like really like
Yeah.
in trouble. So
Yeah.
they're just they play and they're wild, but
That's cool.
Cool.
Cute.
yeah.
So would you ever go on another TV show?
It's funny because this is what I like to do myself. I like to sign up for stuff, stress out about it, work through it the entire time, be like, this is terrible. And afterwards, I'm like, that was awesome. Let's do this again. So the answer is yes. I
Awesome.
would. Like I said, it was kind of. It's a little like I don't want to say the word like cheesy or corny, but like there's a little bit of that to it to those shows. But that's what television is,
Yeah.
and I think once I got through the first one, now I can kind of like accept that. I'm like, you know what? I'll do another one. Not that I thought that I was like particularly great at it or anything, but it is cool to, in anything you do, like set a goal, set a challenge, like the build up to it, like the training. It's even like training for like a marathon, triathlon, like whatever. It's like, it's you do it, and like the process is almost just as good as the actual, event.
Yeah,
So,
that's
Yeah,
cool.
you're training
yeah.
your brain to be in it before you're actually in
yeah,
it.
and it's like, what else?
Yeah.
It's cool to do something, a little out of the box.
Do you have any advice for someone who might want to go on a show? How did you get on the show? Did they reach out to you or
Yeah.
okay.
So what I think they do is they have like whatever, it's like not hiring agents, but like someone that's like reaches out to markets. So like they might be like, as we were, in the last like 5 years, like the Tampa Bay area is like hot right now, or like Charlotte's hot, or like like because you can't just go, let's go to New York and L.A. and San Francisco. It's like
Right.
now there's like all these cool like outer markets, and I think they tap into those at a time. And it's like it's easy to do with social media. You could be like, what's not saying we're like the coolest restaurant, but like what are cool or popular restaurants in St. Pete and Tampa? You find that, you find the chef, Instagram, boom. It's just like an Instagram message. So yeah, they reached out to me and I was like into it. And like I wanted more. It was more of like the chase. Like I wanted them to pick me more than when they actually were like, all right, cool. So we're gonna do this. Let's start picking dates. I was like, wait, what? I actually have to do this? No, I just wanted you to like me and accept me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was cool. So, but my advice to anyone, I don't know if I have any good advice. Just be yourself. Obviously, they want like some small storyline. They're gonna make a character out of you, even though it is true to you. But they're gonna like really latch on to this one small little aspect, and I was just roll with it and just do the experience.
Well, let me ask you this: what do you think about school food?
I mean, there's definitely room for improvement. My oldest son, he does not eat school food. And it's funny because I'm the chef, but he will not, he doesn't want to make it. Only my wife can make it whenever he wants. And he was like, he eats really good.
Yeah.
And then my youngest son, who has a terrible diet and, the range of things he likes is very small. He loves school food because I'll ask him what he eats, and like their breakfast there is just like Cinnamon Toast Crunch bars and like, like crazy things. So there's definitely a lot of room for improvement on school food. I don't know how it is in the schools up here compared to Pinellas. I'm sure it's relatively the same, but I get it though, because it's kids, and you can't have kids not eating, crying and complaining. So it has to be
Okay.
to them.
Well, I have. So that was 100% a loaded question. This is
Okay.
a shameless plug for us.
Okay.
So I actually have a lot of experience in school food, right?
Okay.
So whereas she is more like the restaurant world and that sort of thing, like I come from the school food service world. So we are actually going to be co-hosting a show called Is That School Meals? And the whole concept is we bring in a chef like you to come in and compete against a school chef. And then you guys create similar dishes, but the school chef has to follow all the rules and regulations that the USDA has in place. And then you guys both present your dishes to a panel of judges, and they have to guess if it's like which one is a school meal, which one isn't. And
I mean, I feel like that's slightly unfair. It's always going to be.
I don't know, because I've had some pretty good, and this is the whole point of the show, right?
Yeah.
So there
You're
are
talking
some
about public schools? Or?
public schools.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are a lot of schools that may not have the most innovative menus because sometimes they just don't know how to get from like A to Z.
Yeah.
But there's lots of schools that have like bomb dishes. Like I've had curry and sushi and all sorts of crazy meals in schools that were actually better than what I had at the restaurant the night before. But some people think you can't do that, and a lot of people, they don't even know that it exists in the school food
Yeah.
world, right? So I want to bring in like a restaurant chef, successful such as yourself, to come in and compete against a school chef, make similar dishes, but the school chef has to follow the rules and regulations. They present to a panel. The panel has to guess which one is a school meal or not. I think it should be a ton of fun. And it's meant to be educational, right? Because there's a lot of, like Butterball is one of the sponsors, right? Like you can buy Butterball turkey in the grocery store, but that same Butterball turkey, or very similar, actually healthier, is in a school, but it tastes the same. So that could be a day where you come in, you make a turkey dish, and you make it how you want, and then the school chef makes it how they
I'm
want.
down. Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
heard it. You guys
Yeah.
heard
All
it.
right.
He's in.
Yeah.
He is
I'm in.
in.
I've
Yeah.
actually did so my boys' elementary school for kindergarten, they do like a Thanksgiving and like a Christmas like around the world. And for both their years I did I did like a whole Thanksgiving thing and like catered it
That's
on my
fun.
own. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. It was fun. They go sit like out in the little courtyard with all the kids, and it was cool though. It was a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely down with that.
Yeah, Marlon, you have opened my eyes to what school food can be. So, how Marlon's spending his time a lot of day to day. He's on production sets with school chefs, talking to nutritionists.
Oh, I love
and
that.
And actually, like they're building really cool meals with all of these super health forward items. And I think one of the last videos that I watched was like a poke bowl build and then like a bibimbap
great is
build,
that for?
and I was like, whoa.
Normally secondary stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was so cool though.
I love that. Are you familiar with the Brigade?
Chef Brigade.
Yeah, Chef, exactly.
Yeah, I know them.
Brigade's a different brand. Yeah, so it's like basically an ex-chef from Noma. He's, I forgot where else he worked at. I think he worked for David Chang for a while too. Then went to Noma, but now he does for elementary schools. It's a little more like Connecticut, like higher end public schools systems, but also he's doing like prisons now too, like where he's, which I love that because he's like teaching, like I said before, is like he's also teaching, a tool and something, and also giving people like more nutritious food. But his whole thing is like, because I follow him on Instagram, and he's always like reaching out to chefs, like what's more important, like getting accolades or feeding kids in our country?
Yeah.
And like they pay really well. And I'm like, dude, if they had that here, I'm like, you know what? I might take that on as well too. It's cool though, because it's like in the restaurant industry, I think maybe you get to a certain age, but when you're younger, it's all about being the best, and I want to get this award, and I want to get that, or even just like doing all these cool new techniques you see in a cookbook. That at a certain point, it's like, okay, that's not what it's about. There's so many different facets of cooking and restaurants and hospitality. It doesn't just have to be that, and you have to kind of like think outside that box. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's amazing. Getting paid well, working great hours Monday through Friday, having the weekends off, and you're cooking nutritious, delicious food and connecting with kids in your local community. Like, how is that not even better than being like, oh, we just got best restaurant of the, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not so black and white.
You're talking about Dan, right?
What's that?
Are you talking about Dan at Chef Brigade?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying, like, I agree with that too. It's like, you don't have to just be a chef where you're trying to get all these cool things and use all these crazy techniques. Like, make delicious food for
you actually, like, we're seeing a lot more chefs get into school food, and I know personally chefs that have worked at Michelin star restaurants aside from Dan that are working in school districts now. Yeah, it's wild, and they love it.
That's awesome. It's like, use the skills you have and then apply it to something different. It's like a whole new challenge.
I think with anything else, right, like there's so many layers of complexity in the industry too, and like you grow along with it, and so you can kind of help redefine your purpose or how you see yourself in the space as you get older, or maybe as you get those awards and you're like, I'm not so hot, I'm like, this is what I'm gunning for, I want to see more, do more, make a different impact.
For sure.
All right, Melissa, I think it's time to ask the question. You want to do it this time?
Do I get to?
You get to do it this
wow,
time.
I never get to. Okay, chef. So, what we're calling it your death row meal. Sorry, we have
That's
to
fine.
we have to rebrand it.
Death dish.
Your death dish. If you could have one last dish, what would it be?
Oh man,
and
it's so funny because I hear these on other podcasts and I'm like preparing myself if I'm ever asked this, and now I'm like, I don't know. But really, that's so hard. I mean, is it bad? I'm like,
Is it the cinnamon toast bar?
It could be anything.
No. Is it a dish or is it like I want a course?
It's a
you
meal.
can give us a meal.
Like I'm starting off.
You can give us a meal.
I'm gonna start off with like some really good oysters. It's
Okay.
like classic mignonette, cocktail sauce, maybe even some like perfectly poached prawns.
Ooh.
Ribeye,
Oh,
possibly.
yeah.
Dry aged, super buttery potatoes, some onion rings, a little demi on there as well too.
Man, he is going deep
I
with
love
us.
that. Wait, can I just say I had the best oysters of my life in Morro Bay outside of Paso Robles a couple weeks ago. They were from Grassy Bar Oyster Company, and holy shit, they were incredible. Encourage everyone to look them up, check them out. If you like oysters,
Yeah.
they need to be in your life
That sounds
immediately.
awesome. I love oysters. It's like,
Yes.
there's never enough. I don't know like the limit of how many oysters I could eat.
Me either, but maybe we'll all go head to head on
Yeah.
seeing. But also, your death row meal is very similar to a lot of celebrity death row meals.
Nice.
There's a TikTok account where this guy basically just looks up every single criminal who faced the death penalty, and he itemizes out and like recreates and ranks their death row meals. And
That
it
is
is
awesome.
hilarious. Yeah, Bryce, of course, found it and showed
Yeah.
it to me. But
That's amazing.
now he's like, look at this one. I'm like, what was Jeffrey Dahmer's? I need to know. But
He's like, yeah, I was
a lot of
person.
yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
It's fine. Just serve it up. But like the majority is fried chicken, steak, and potatoes.
Yeah.
And onion rings too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
I don't know
man,
why,
it's been great having you on the episode. This has been a ton of fun. I'm glad we had a chance to meet. Thank you so much for this introduction. You got the
course.
coolest friends.
I just do my best.
Cool.
You
I
know,
appreciate you having me on.
live it out in the world. Yeah, thank you so much.
I feel like
It was
I
great.
could keep. Once I get going, I'm like a chatty Cathy. I could go on for like 2 more hours.
Oh, well, we can easily have a part 2, especially
We
after we
could.
do this this TV show. That could be fun.
Okay,
Yeah, let's do
part
it.
2 with oysters and wine.
Oh,
Yes.
I like it.
I'm into that.
I like
Done
it.
and done.
All right, it's gonna happen. You guys
I'm
heard
here
it
for it.
first.
Cool.